Hi everyone, I'm going to do a little walkthrough for the first prac exam, or the sample prac exam I should say. The actual exam will have 60 minutes of time from the time you click attempt quiz now. In the real exam, you should see an attempt quiz now icon over here. If you don't see attempt quiz now, it means that you are not enrolled in that class and there's a problem. So please talk to your tutor. The first thing that you do is you click on attempt quiz. You'll wait for your tutor to announce when can you start attempting the quiz, because everyone needs to start it together. When you click on attempt quiz now, you'll see this page and the link is highlighted and is in big fonts. Click on the link and you'll see a file will be downloaded. You can open iLearn. Make sure that there are no projects in the Package Explorer inside the Safe Exam browser in iLearn. Import the project by going to File, Import, General, Existing Projects, not Archive file, but Existing Projects. Then select Archive File. It comes from, and then go to Downloads, go to the right file. Version 7 is the one that I used as a sample. If everything is correct, there should be a project and there should be a tick mark there. Finish. If your project says expanded or unarchived, something like that, there's a problem, and talk to your tutor. The first thing that you should do is click on all-in-one-test.java and run it. It should show score equals 0 and it should have blue crosses for all the tests, which will ensure that the project was imported correctly. I'll start with the first question. Read the specs carefully. Parameters are a and b, which are integers. Return true if one of them is negative and the other is positive. So you can do it in a variety of ways. I'm just going to do it using the most simple way. One is negative, a is negative, and the other is positive. If that's the case, return true. Now let's say deliberate mistake. In all other cases, you return false. So I'm going to run this test and I see there's an error, assertion error at. Now this is your failure trace, which will be very useful. Assertion error, and the second line is at. So if you pass 2 and -4, it should be true because it's assert true. Assertion failure means that it is returning false, which means this expression is not true, which is correct because 2 is not negative. And because this is false, false and anything is false. So what I did is I forgot the second scenario where A could be positive and B could be negative. In that case also it should return true. Run it again and it passes. Question number 2, snooty multiple. Return true if A is a multiple of B or A is a multiple of C, but not both. So A cannot be a multiple of both A, B and C. Sorry, A cannot be a multiple of both B and C. So we can check if A is a multiple of B and A is not a multiple of C. Return true. Similarly, if A is a multiple of C and A is not a multiple of B, return true as well. In all of the cases, return false. Run it and it works. Of course, you can always combine these two conditions together. So if the first case happens or the second case happens, return true, otherwise return false. Again, you can just return the outcome of this entire expression, and that will pass as well. But as I said, it's up to you what your programming style is. For most of the students, I suggest nice and simple statements, even if it means that there are more than one statement. Question number 3, sum of multiples. Return the sum of all the multiples of n which are between low and high. If n is 3, low is 10, high is 21, return 12 plus 15 plus 18 plus 21, which is 66. So we'll have a variable to hold the result. We'll go through each item between low and high, and if the current counter is a multiple of n, it means that the number divides n. I'm going to make a deliberate mistake here, and if that's the case, I'm going to increase result by 1. When the loop finishes, one more thing, when I have my cursor on line 27, you can see that the curly bracket on line 23 is highlighted, and that's how I know that the closing bracket matches the opening bracket of the loop. When the loop finishes, I return result. Run this piece of code. It's going to fail, and the assertion failure is expected 66 but was 4 at this line. So we'll give you rough pages on that. Note down these values, that your test is failing for n equals 3, low equals 10, high equals 21. Expected value is 66, actual value is 4. You can place breakpoints in your method on line 22, 23, 24, 25, and 28, and debug the code by clicking on this debug icon. You can see that it enters the code with n equals 3, low equals 10, high equals 21. When I resume, result is 0, I equals 10, but 10 is not a multiple of 3, so I becomes 11, is not a multiple of 3, I becomes 12, 12 is a multiple of 3, so result increases by 1. Result increases by 1, but we expected that result will increase by 12 because we are adding these values together. So this result plus plus should be result plus equals I, or result equals result plus I. Fix your mistake. Exit the debugging mode by clicking on the J icon on the top right side. Stop your debugger and run the program again. Again, I'm going to stop the debugger and exit the debugging mode and run the program again, and now it passes. So that's how you can catch mistakes using your debugger. I'm not going to make any more deliberate mistakes, well, unless I make accidental mistakes. Here, return the sum of all the items except unwanted. So except this item, add all other items. Again, my total is 0. Go through each item. If the current item is not equal to the unwanted item, only then total increases by the current item. When the loop finishes, return total. Run this and it passes as well. You can always run all-in-one test.java at any point of time, which tells you your current score till that point of time. Moving to question 5, check if an array contains any odd value. Odd values are not divisible by 2. In this case, even one odd value is sufficient, so I can go through the array. You can see that I've given an assume that the array contains at least one value, so you don't have to check for null array or empty array. If the current value, remainder 2, is not equal to 0. Now note this carefully, that odd numbers are checked using whatever number it is, remainder 2 not equal to 0 and not equal to 1 and not data I remainder 2 equal to 1, because that will only check for positive odd numbers. So if the remainder 2 is not equal to 0, which could be -1 for negative odd numbers and +1 for positive odd numbers, you found an odd number and you can immediately return true. If the loop finishes only then, you can return false. If you return false inside the loop using else return false, that would be a huge mistake. Because if the first number is not odd, you will immediately return false, which is in the case of 6 minus 8, 7. So just because 6 is not an odd number does not mean that there is no odd number in front. So do not return false if that expression is not true. Only return false if no odd number is found in the array. Alright, we're going to run this test and it passes as well, which brings us to the distinction level question of checking that only all even numbers exist before all the odd numbers. You can see that in the tests I've got empty array and an array containing only one value. Once it's an even number, once it's an odd number, and in all three cases it returns true. So our first approach would be to check what happens if there are less than 2 items, but we'll check that later. Less than 2 items case over here. But let's say we don't do that already. We go from I equals 0 to I less than data.length -1 only till second last index, not the last index, only the second last index. This is array, sorry. Because what we are checking is, if there is an odd number, so array I is an odd number and the item after it is an even number, then it means that there is an odd before even, which is a violation of what I want. So because we want all even numbers to be before all the odd numbers, if I get an odd number before an even number, that's no good and I can return false. Again, if the loop finishes, it means no violation occurred and I can return true. When I run this code, I'll get a pass, which is okay actually, because when there are less than 2 items in the array, in all cases I need to return true, because if the array is empty, yes, all the even numbers are before all the odd numbers. If the array contains only one even number, yes, all the even numbers are before all the 0 odd numbers. Again, if it contains only one number, which is an odd number, yes, all the 0 even numbers are before all the odd numbers. So it kind of takes care of itself. But if you want, you can also do explicitly over here, if the length of the array is less than 2, return true. And that will work as well. The last question is a high distinction question, and I'm not going to solve that in this walkthrough video. It's expected that students who reach this stage are motivated enough that they will actually make an effort to research the internet to see how they can solve this question if they can't solve it by themselves already. So when I go to all-in-one test and run it, my score is 90, and anyone who does the last question will get a score of 100. Once you're done with this, to export the project, click on File, Export, General, Archive File, and make sure there is a tick mark against the project, not a dash like this, not a dash like this, but a tick mark, because a tick mark implies that everything in the project is being saved. Save it as your use student id.zip. In this case, I'm saving it at the desktop. So I'm going to save this and finish this. Target exists. I can overwrite it, not a problem. You can then go on iLearn and you have this icon for file picker. Click on file picker, choose file, go to the directory where the file is. In your case, it should be in downloads. Choose the file, upload this file. It will upload it, save and review, submit all and finish, and confirm once more, submit all and finish. Once you see this file is here, you can finish your review or finish the exam. I don't think it will say finish review. You can finish the exam. If it doesn't say, that's fine. As long as you can see that file, you're good to go. You can log out of iLearn and you can also press Ctrl-Alt-Del and immediately sign out of the computer. So in this case, I'm going to log out, but you can also sign out of the computer. All good. So hopefully you'll benefit from this walkthrough video and enjoy coding. All the best.